I was just thinking, I was like, prohibition did actually happen for a while, like in the 20s, right? In the 1920s. It's like, what a weird, we're like, oh, no, you can never ban alcohol. And then it was like, but it did happen for a small period of time. And of course, everyone just found a way to drink because alcoholics are not going to drink. And you can make that stuff, right? There's going to be people in Tennessee with beards down to their knees being like, oh, this moonshine doesn't taste like the last batch. I got to add more yeast or whatever. That's what's going to be happening. So, but it was a thing, and I guess somebody along the way decided, right before a stock market was going to crash, that they would ban alcohol. Right? I know it doesn't work in practice because we need it too. Like, there's a reason why it helps too. Like, you shouldn't just never drink alcohol. But like anything in life, there needs to be moderation. And this is a Ken Braverman podcast, and we're challenging Adam Carolla to a dry time challenge. That's really what I want it to be. So a dry time challenge is something I'm coming up with. I mean, I'm sure the term has been used before, but not probably in this exact sense, which would be, there's something I don't like about myself. And so you always have to start about making yourself better in the world for everyone else, I would say. And then also try to make the world better. And in this case, you would pick somebody. I'm going to pick Adam Carolla, and I'm going to pick his drinking as the thing that I want to dry time challenge him on. And a dry time challenge in the days of 21st century social media and everything is you can update something basically every day if you want to somehow. So you just have to check in every day. Did I make a wager today? Because I have a gambling problem and I need to stop betting on sports. I'm glad that this month is coming to an end of November and I don't have to update all these different sports anymore. I can't, even though I'm still going to have to do NFL, of course. And I'm still probably going to want to do hockey because my son's going to ask. And NBA is really easy to update. Maybe I should work on it, but I don't want to do any of this. College basketball. No, I have a gambling problem. So spending time on this makes me want to gamble on it. And I don't want to gamble. I have a gambling problem, Adam. I have a gambling problem. So here's the thing, though, right? Well, one, Adam could not respond, just be like, whatever, like, who's this crazy person on my on my Reddit, like calling me an alcoholic and just not and ignore it. He could do that, but while he's ignoring me, then let's assume that he ignores me here. All right, because I've never reached out to him other than walking into the studio one day when Jake Paul was there. Other than doing that, I've never really tried to associate. I've never spoken to him. So let's assume that he ignores me. Well, I'm going to take that ignorance as a reason for me to not bet. So every day that we get no response on whether or not he's heard of this challenge and whether he just says, no, I'm not stopping drinking, which, well, once that acknowledgement happens, then I'm probably free to bet because then there's no game. If he wants to end it right there, you're like, no, yeah, I know of his challenge and I'm going to keep drinking every day. Sorry. Um, but like that is kind of telling if you were to say, you know, well, are you going to pay me not to drink or something? I'll be like, well, I'm gonna listen to your podcast every day that you say you aren't going to drink, and I'm going to hear in the morning how your day was when you weren't drunk watching Love Boat. I'm kind of interested to know what a sober night might entail, right? So, and I too will not drink, even though I don't think I have a drinking problem, but I've definitely drank too much before, so I had no problem also doing that because before I got sick, I drank, I had one of those, everybody on a holiday has a glass of wine, right? I got some red wine. Next thing I know, I'm half dead, right? Freaking tell you. So, all right. So that's the challenge is starting today, which I'll call it the 29th because I haven't made a bet today and I'm not going to actually, pulled money out. I'm done. Like I don't want to make any more bets. I'm good not betting. And so we'll see if Adam hears this. Right? We'll see if Adam hears this on a Tuesday night. And I imagine he might hear it by the 30th. We'll find out. And also, so while he's ignoring it in the beginning here, while he's ignoring it, like I said, I'm going to assume I'm going to not bet, right? And I'm going to talk about not betting. And we're also going to talk about the show. But we do want an acknowledgement eventually. And I guess otherwise I'll never ever bet again if he never acknowledges, which would be awesome. So I think I win either way. All right, so that's going to be a daily podcast for me talking about whether or not we think Adam has drank the night before, because you might mention it. He might know of the challenge and then be passive aggressive and mention things about drinking just to be like, fuck you, I'm still drinking. That might happen. Let's see. All right, that's literally what's going on. It's a good idea if you're going to try to do something. Take a look at yourself. What's something you want to change about yourself? There are obvious ones like smoking, drinking, um, trying to think what's a normal bad thing to do. I mean, there's really bad drugs, but if you're doing really bad drugs, the answer is, oh, you shouldn't be challenging anybody. You should be just not doing them. Like, oh, what is that? Are you doing fentanyl? Right, my name, Ace is fentanyl. Are you doing fentanyl? If you're doing fentanyl, one, I'm astonished you're not dead yet, and number two, I won't be astonished when I find out you're dead really soon if you said you're doing fentanyl. So if you're doing that one, you shouldn't challenge anyone. You should just stop. And that goes for a lot of bad things. But some things are like kind of bad. So let's go with drinking and gambling because this one's make a lot of sense. I absolutely have to stop betting on sports. So that means any work I do for people that ask me, oh my God, that's right. That's what the rest of this video is going to be about. Oh yeah, I got to answer a question for somebody because they actually paid me a lot of money to do this. Hold on. So somebody asked me about NFL this week. All right. So I did prepare week 13 for those who are still watching this video. And all of a sudden it did come into a sports video. But I got to answer a question. I don't want to type it out. I'm going to show it in the video. And here you go. So the person asked me, they're like, hey, these scores, what's going on in your projections? Like, is San Francisco really winning 41-22? Are you double counting McCaffrey? Like, what's the technical thing going on? The answer is, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Here's what you need to do. You need to go to the all player sheet. The all player sheet is where all the players are. Guess what? We name things the way they're supposed to be named. We try to make sense here. All player sheet. So what's going on in the all player sheet is there's a bunch of different things here. There's error checks, there's people. So there's words. And I would say looking at check team and NA is going to show you the people that have interesting things going on with their stats. And they have two stats essentially here. And so, and then some of these people are probably all free agents, but maybe not all of them. And yeah, there's more check teams when you just see the check teams. So these are all the people when you just show the check teams. These are all the people that you need to review and look to see what's going on with them and which team they're on by actually looking them up and then changing their master reference right here. Okay. And I'm sorry we got technical, but that's the answer to the question about what's going on with adding people together. And it's kind of duplicating stats of certain people. So another way to look at that is when you look at the Proj pivot sheet, which is really the crux about when you're doing fantasy, because I'm getting asked about doing fantasy again, which I can't stand fantasy sports. Please don't get me started. That if you're worried about me betting, telling me to do work on fantasy stuff is a great way to get me not betting on that either. Because I don't bet at all anymore when it comes to that. I could care less. But there's people that do, and there's people that make money. And I understand they ask me to do stuff because I'm awesome at doing it, so I just do it for them. But the thing about that is when you look at the football and you want to break down everything, well, this is where your master thing is going on, and you're filtering this master table right here, which is creating all the projected scores and stuff. So when you're trying to answer a question about like, oh, well, what's going on with McCaffrey? How is he reporting McCaffrey's stats? Like, what's happening here? And the answer is that under San Francisco, McCaffrey's going to show up somewhere. He's questionable, and he's worth a 1.19, which is enormous. But is that actually justified? And here's what's going on. Is that there are multiple stats that are contributing to his big score here. I just double clicked on that to show that basically. When you double click inside a pivot table reference here, it will show you the comprised data that created this number of 1.19. It'll pop up in a new sheet like it just did. And as we look through that, we start to see things like this has him as a running back overall, and it has 5 different numbers that are adding up McCaffrey. And that does seem ridiculous. And especially after last week, and this is why you can't not do sports, guys. I'm sorry. Like I can't not make these things better all the time. It's so frustrating to just look at this and be like, well, I could make this better right now. That's the problem with doing sports and why I can't bet and don't want to do this anymore. It's 100% work nonstop. But I wanted to make a point because this is really important for fantasy and stuff too. Everything it's important for reality. Like how much of an impact is McCaffrey going to make? And you look back at last week's projections, and we had. Did we really have the Niners putting up 42 points against the Saints or something? That's crazy. Yeah, we did. It was a ton. So that looked like it's doing too much. And then when we just saw this report here, we got 5 McCaffrey stats. Like that's why his number is so big. So clearly that's not okay. So what do you do there? Well, you can look at only one team at a time. We could either choose his stats from Carolina, or we could choose his stats from San Francisco. I would argue it's better to just look at the newer team stats because that's kind of it throws their number into the newer team better. So there it does have him as a Carolina under the rush. So basically, we need to like I don't know. I think we should remove some of them. I guess it's adding this one in. Yeah, I think it's adding it in here. So like his number, he's gotten a 31%. Yeah, like let's double click on that thing again. Because it will actually show you sort of. So 1.19 is too much. But it's giving him receiving and rushing points, which it should, but it should really only give it to him from one team. Right? Because there's also a 0 down here in another stat somewhere. So he's got a 0.2 and a 0.3 and a 0.2 and a 0.3. He's really like a point, if you took even the highest ones, that would be fine. And so, well, the question is, as you're working with this file, how do you want to make that adjustment? What do you want to do with that? You can change his, here's how you do this. His Carolina stats, if you don't want to include him, you call this Christian McCaffrey 1. Actually, that'll work. And same thing here. The stat that you want to remove, you do that. It's the Carolina one because there's another one in there for both the rushing and the receiving stats. This one that's on San Francisco, that's okay. It's got fewer games, obviously, it's okay. Now we go back here, we're going to see what he's going to change to. Instead of being a 1.19, he's now a 0.49. And that makes more sense. And along with that making more sense, score changes completely, knocks 5 points off the score, and things get a little more reasonable here. All right. And that's how you edit certain areas of the all player sheet, but you also want to change the master list right here. All right. I know we went from a podcast about drinking and gambling to one about updating NFL, but I'm not making a bet. So I'm allowed to do this if I'm not betting. That's the rule here. And we will see what else I do when I'm not betting, because it won't be those boring videos about football coding. It's going to be about crazy other stuff. And I think Adam might go and entertain a lot of crazier, more interesting things, and the podcast would probably be better. All right. So good luck, everybody. Don't drink, don't smoke either, but don't gamble. Well, that's right. I'm telling you not to gamble. All those people that bought all those algorithms from me, I'm telling you not to gamble. Gamble if you want to gamble. I can't gamble. That I can tell you. I should not gamble. And I think that Adam should definitely take some time off drinking. We'll see if he acknowledges and decides to partake in this dry time challenge. All right. Good luck. May all your podcasts be listenable.